Yeah, our next story today. I'm going to preface by saying, even though I will be talking about this, I still 100% support our withdrawal from Afghanistan. Say that down. 100% support our withdrawal from Afghanistan. But as we're leaving, the Afghanistan civilian casualty figures are at a record high. A report from the UN reveals acute rise in deaths and injuries since the 1st of May as Taliban exploit departure of record numbers of civilians been killed and injured in Afghanistan in fighting since the 1st of May, when international forces became their final drawdown and the Taliban launched a major offensive. The heavy toll so far comes from battles in rural areas. The conflict would spill into more densely populated towns and cities. The consequences could be catastrophic. Now, it will. I'll let that be known. I remember when I first talked about our withdrawal from Afghanistan. Now I said that Michael Bolton, John Bolton, correct when he said that the problems were only going to get worse on the ground and the Taliban were going to rise up, take over the country. But we were, as I said before, we were only blocking that. That wave was coming. We were stemming the tide, but you can only stop the tide for so long. That's why it's the tide. You can't stop it. You can't stop the tide. So the war between the Afghani military and the Taliban forces are up, and civilians, of course, are being caught in the crossfire. Same civilians that were being caught in the crossfire the whole time that we were there. Now, when numbers, I want to think that these numbers are from 6 months of what? First 4 months, 21, about 880 Iraqi civilians were killed and 100 were injured. Now, in the latest 2 months of the same year, around the same amount were injured. So roughly, it's been about 1,600 people killed, 3,200 injured, and those numbers are probably low, probably on the low side. Two thirds were thirds of all these people were killed from Taliban insurgents, and a quarter of them from the Afghan military. So the war from both sides are recklessly killing civilians. Honestly, they're recklessly killing civilians on their own land. They're waging a war over a land that, if they continue at this rate, there will be no people in it when they win. The victor will have an empty kingdom to rule over, a bunch of desert and blood, and yeah, a bunch of sand and blood. That's it. All you're gonna have at the end of the day if you keep this up. That's all the Taliban's or the Afghan military. At the end of the day, you will look back and you will see nothing but a trail of bodies. That's all that will be left of your land that you fought for. So, an egregious attack was a girls' school in Kabul where 85 were killed, 200 were most were schooled. Taliban, as a terrorist organization, targets civilians in their attacks. Want to spread fear. Their attacks could be directly targeted to, and the Afghan military have airstrikes that are indiscriminate, as ours are. They're not destroying their property, land. These wars they're only getting worse. Right now they're in the outskirts, but as they get pushed into the major cities, numbers are going to go up. But I just want to say, but I'm glad we're getting out again, because since we were there, and this number again is radically low, but from just the reports that were released, There was over 30,000 civilians that were killed from when Afghanistan, and the same amount, uh, and reported. Sure, that number's in the hundreds of, honestly, military, and civilian casualties. Even just considering civilian, the number is innumerable of dead and injured. We weren't helping the situation. That's the thing. We were truly. I do not believe we ever really truly were helping the Afghani civilians. This is just. It's a sad truth that being in a war torn